Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Career Discovery Sessions, where me and you learn more about different careers by speaking to individuals who have succeeded in their careers and getting some advice from them on how to enter their fields. Today, we're going to be talking to Lucas Oliver, a counsellor and trainer who specialises in all aspects of addiction. Lovely to have you here today.
Okay, good to see you, Simona. Thank you for asking.
I studied your website and I looked at all of the areas of specialization, but I wanted to ask you to give us a summary of what your job role is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you kind of hinted at there, I've got two job roles. I worked as a counsellor in the drug and alcohol field for about 15 years. So yeah, that was certainly one place where my heart was. And now I counsel students. So it's generally counselling. It's a lot about helping people with depression, anxiety, and of course, being able to draw on any of my experience about addictions. And then I'm also a trainer, and I've actually done that for many years as well. So I trained people when I was in the drug and alcohol service about drug and alcohol substances, really teaching people about that. And then what I'm doing now is I work sort of salaried with the university when I counsel students. And then I've got the other part of me is sort of my own business, if you call it that. I'm kind of like a freelance trainer. So, and I have a really good partnership with someone who gives me lots of work, actually, which is nice. And that's to do with training a counselling technique which helps people in social care. So that's mainly social workers. And it helps them to be able to work with people, hopefully in a more effective way. So there's kind of two strings to my bow, really.
And how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? Was it an early action plan or something that just evolved?
It was more the latter. Yeah, it was definitely something that evolved. I mean, I didn't know when I was your age what I wanted to do, I'll be honest. And the A levels I did. Well, I did do sociology, which I suppose helped. But the other things I chose, not necessarily, you wouldn't necessarily link it to what I'm doing now. What did I choose? Well, it was business studies. And I hated it, to be honest with you. I just went, at the time I thought practically, what can I do? Okay, I'll choose something practical, but it wasn't the right thing for me. It wasn't me. But that's okay. There's time to, there's time for me to figure out who I was really, which was good. And I did that much more at university. And the other thing I did English. I did English literature. So that's kind of, was useful anyway, really. But then university, I suppose, was where I really started to find my thing, for want of a better phrase. I went there to do philosophy, and that's what I originally did. But then I discovered criminology, and I did like philosophy. I liked philosophy as a teenager, if you like. And then I kind of got a little bit bored with it by the time I kind of got late teens, and which is just when I was studying at university. I found criminology and I found a really nice mix, and I was really got into that, and I got quite interested actually in drugs and organized crime. So that's really, I suppose, was the beginning of me sort of, I suppose, getting a feel for that area, sort of getting my interest, and I suppose wanting to help people with addictions somewhat. That's probably where it first started, although I kind of ended up drinking too much alcohol, if I was honest with you, in my early 20s. And then I realized that I was drinking too much, and I kind of sorted myself out, for want of a better phrase. And then I wanted to help other people do that, to be honest with you. So, my mental health was suffering, so, and I could see that. And I actually, when I kind of got beyond that, I thought, yeah, I'd love to help other people in a similar position.
So what were your first experiences following that to get into the field?
I was quite lucky, really. Well, I went to a conference about addictions, and that helped. That helped me be around other professionals in that area before I even got a job. But it enabled me I suppose, to realize, that sort of there were treatment agencies, the way things worked. And then I managed to get a job basically promoting drug issues in amongst communities. There was a bit of a thing there to sort of try to support communities with the problem of drugs crimes. But to be honest with you, when I went out and I spoke to community groups, people didn't know much about drugs. There was a lot of ignorance, actually, and there was a lot of myths and misunderstandings. So I just had the idea, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start educating people about drugs and alcohol awareness, and try to so people aren't just getting their information from newspapers and politicians who can talk a bit of rubbish, frankly. So that's what I did. And I guess that's how I fell into training. I discovered that actually, I'm a bit of a show off, really. I kind of quite like being the center of attention. I quite like being up there in front of people. So I really enjoyed that from the off. And it was from then that I managed to sort of get in a position where I could then start doing my counselling training, because after a time I thought I did want to get and work directly with people with drug and alcohol problems. And I got a break, basically. I was very lucky to get in somewhere there to be able to do that. So yeah, we need a bit of luck sometime in our careers.
Do you think there's anything that you wish you had learned more about during this journey, or do you think that was sufficient and then you grew on it?
I think when I say I was lucky, I think I'm kind of tailoring that to why things are like now. I'm not sure that you can be so lucky now in your generation. I kind of got in without doing a psychology, say, A-level or degree. So I think maybe I should have done that from the off. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. And I think that's probably what I could say is that you probably need something like that now. So, it would have been helpful if I'd had it. Then I needed to get lucky. Unfortunately, I did. And I did counselling qualification and all the rest of it. Or a nursing qualification would have done a similar job. So that would have been really helpful. Mental health nursing degree or some sort of psychology would have been good for me.
So do you think there is a specific personality type of the kind of person who works in this field?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be a people person. That's going to be obvious, isn't it? It's that desire, without being too cheesy, for wanting to make a difference, wanting to help people. But one thing I've had to really learn more than anything is that there's a balance, and that it can be very easy to get a bit too sucked in on that one, and you can find yourself falling into a bit of a rescuer role if you're not careful. This sort of idea that you can kind of help and fix everyone, unfortunately, just isn't true, because as much as we'd like to do that, we're not in control of that. It depends on the other person. And so that was one of the hardest lessons I've had to sort of learn for my own mental health and well-being, and to be able to survive in this field for, I suppose it's 17 years I've been doing that. And if you really, if you go too madly at it, you burn out. And actually I've seen people do that, just get a little bit too sucked in. So I'd say being able to just balance that, be compassionate, be empathic, but don't get overly involved, because that's not sustainable. You've got to be able to kind of look after yourself as well, emotionally, have things, for me it's sports, but just know yourself in terms of how to keep yourself emotionally well, because other people in distress can be distressful.
So do you think that is the negative aspect of your job, and is there any other ones?
That's a very good question, and I suppose yeah, it is in some ways. It can be. Like I say, you can learn how to manage it, but it's a good point. It could take a lot of toll on somebody who, at stressful times in their lives, or if you don't learn to manage your own stress, You know, and sadly, I've had people who've completed suicide, and you know, one of those was really tough. You know, coming through that. But having said that, it was an enormous opportunity, I suppose, to reflect on life and to actually, you know, just think about things, what it's all about, and all the rest of it. And you know, these very, very harsh experiences, of course, can be great opportunities to grow and learn, you know, about life. So I guess, you know, an ability to do that really is also helpful. You know, and to be interested in people. Yeah.
So focusing on the positive and the present, although maybe not in COVID as much, what is your day-to-day life? What motivates you, and what are the activities you complete?
Well, it really is. It depends what I'm doing. So if I'm doing counselling, I'll obviously I'll have a list of appointments, people to see. And you know, so a bit like this, basically, a student on Zoom I'll speak to for about 50 minutes, and I do that virtually on an hourly basis throughout the day. And you know, really, it's being interested in that person, asking lots of questions. You know, it's in a funny way, you know, again, it's a bit of a myth that, you know, us counsellors don't have all the answers. We really don't, you know, and it's not about that, but it is about having lots of questions. Ironically, you know, it's not necessarily about having the answers, but it's about having lots of questions and lots of ability to really listen, you know, tune in and be able to relate to people, be able to build rapport is the first thing. So that's you know, it can be really nice because, as I say, most people they take the help on offer. You know, that it's sort of like a nice way to sort of interact with people, really. And then the bit I don't necessarily like about the job, which is writing up notes. So I have to make notes on everyone, but you know, that's the way of the world. I just have to and do various statistical things and write up. So I'm more in the job for the people bit, not the tapping away on the computer bit. But there you go, that goes part and parcel. If I'm training, then it's, you know, being a bit like you are now, Simona, you know, you're kind of like running the show, you know, and you've got yeah, exactly. And you know, so it's coming at it with a bit of energy, you know, with a structure, with being able to give people instructions and direct people, and yeah, that's quite nice to have that mix. Actually, I wouldn't necessarily want to do that all the time. Like, hats off to teachers, to be honest with you. They're just at it, aren't they? You know, for long hours every day. That takes a lot of energy. But yeah, it's on Zoom, kind of working with groups, and that can be really fascinating as well. Again, you know, you're getting back from people. You're trying to you know, just gauge what they're picking up and learning and making meanings out of what you're saying. So yeah.
So I can guess that one of your personal achievements is being able to, you know, understand people and make people better. What other achievements do you have?
I think the well, I hope that's true. I mean, being able to listen and relate to people, be friendly. You're not their friend, but you're friendly. Help people be at ease, and also it depends what I'm doing, really, whether it's counselling or training, but it's the ability to ask those questions, I suppose, and help people to question for themselves. And that those skills are true whether I'm counselling or training. So you're helping to stimulate people's thought processes, and you know, just help people learn, really help people, you know, get beyond the problems they've got, or you know, learn a new technique that they can apply. So yeah, I guess that comes into it.
How do you think a student like me who wants to go into this field would develop these skills of communication? Is there any advice you have for them?
Oh, that is a really good question. I mean, actually, purposely practicing listening, I think, is a really good, you know, really listening to people is a really good skill. I think there's a lot of pressure in society to talk and to, you know, be pizzazz and entertain and be very, sort of to say a lot, but we all need someone to listen. So I think, just purposefully attending to that, especially as there's so many opinions, aren't there? Extreme opinions around at the moment. Isn't quite important to listen to one another. Being able to genuinely ask how people are, be concerned with that, especially in, we're living in quite stressful times, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
So just those sort of skills and interests in people, I think. How's that? Anything else?
What about the actual path? What do you think a student should learn in university? What kind of course should they take?
As I said, I suppose, for psychology wouldn't go amiss. That would have been a good option. I guess, mental health nursing would have been an asset, absolutely. People can do things like addiction studies. That would have been another one. People can do that to master's level. People can do also stuff around, I suppose, counselling. You can even do that to degree level. But I ended up, I got my degree, and then I did something called a postgraduate diploma in counselling, and that was really valuable. So I can't sort of not mention that. That's a definite possible route in.
Is there any 3 tips, if you had to narrow it down, to students who want to go into the field?
3 tips. My word, you put me on the spot there, aren't you? So it's I think I mentioned sort of knowing or having your things. It's got to kind of be your thing. It's got to come from the right place. Those sort of qualities of being interested in people, wanting to help, all the rest of it. I think actually integrity is really important. Can I have that as my second one? So I think that, I mentioned that I had a bit of lived experience in terms of drinking too much and the effect that had on my mental health and well-being. And I think from that, because I kind of found my way out of it myself, it's not the only way to help people, but I think, staying true to that sort of, and being able to advise people from the heart, if you like, or what worked for you can also be helpful, and also sticking to that, sort of living a life, I suppose, that's healthy, that's got healthy coping mechanisms. I think it gives you that integrity to be able to talk to people about their health and well-being. So I can, occasionally I can talk passionately about exercise. Exercise, we know, is good for people, and I quite naturally and happily talk about that because I know it's good for me. It's not the only good thing, but stuff like that. So having integrity. I need a third one, don't I? Remind me of the question again. 3 tips.
Yeah, 3 tips for students. It can be a material thing, maybe a book that you have to read.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Can I have 2 books?
Of course.
If it, just because the best book I've ever read on addiction, if anyone was interested in that, is a chap called Dr. Gabor Mate, and actually you don't even need to read the book. You can check him out on YouTube. He comes up. But the book about addiction is called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. Okay. And that's just bursting full of compassion. And he's a guy who talks about his own addictions. So it comes from the heart, and he happens to be a physician. He's like he's a psychiatrist and a medical doctor. So he's got the full package, and he's just a lovely guy. And he really knows about addiction from all angles. So I think that's a great one. And another book I really like is not about addiction, but I think it really helps us to understand about the way we tick. And it's got a lovely idea, and it's called The Chimp Paradox, and it's by Professor Steve Peters. And he's very, very neuroscientifically accurate. So neuroscience has helped us to understand. Actually, neuroscience might be another good way into this. I suddenly thought then, but that's helped us to understand quite a few things about the way we tick. And he uses a metaphor which explains that to someone like me who's not a neuroscientist. So I feel like I can get it, and that's why I like that book. in the first third of it, it really lays that out very, very clearly to my mind. And then it kind of turns into a bit of a self-help book, if you wanted it to be, ways to, I suppose, look after your own mental health and well-being, you know, and that bit's okay too. People might really find that useful. So yeah, 2 books, price of 1.
And I really like how relevant it is to everything, the way that we're developing as humans, especially during COVID. I think mental health is becoming the most important part. Where do you think the field is going in the future? Is it growing or?
Well, I think, you know, just the point you're saying that, you know, maybe I won't be out of a job, you know, that and I say that slightly with a heavy heart, because, you know, we do hear about people, don't we? Especially during lockdown. We totally understand how people are struggling. You know, we struggle ourselves. It's not easy. This is a different way of connecting, isn't it? Doing what we're doing now. 2 years ago, we'd have been in the room together, wouldn't we? Talking, you know. But and so I think I'd done about 1 counselling session online before the pandemic lockdown, and now, of course, it's all I do. You know, when the lockdown was eased, I had the weird experience of finding it odd to be back in the room with someone, and just this business of making eye contact with people, you know, a real person in front of you who you're working like this with, it was a bit weird, to be honest with you, to start with. So that's a change. It's probably here to stay, actually. I think people will end up having a choice. You know, hopefully we get through this, and people will have the choice to be able to be in the room with someone again, like me. You know, I'll have a choice to have a training audience in the room, or people might still want it online, you know, or the remote ways. I'm a little bit reluctant. There's some talk of even, you know, that I might be replaced by a bot, you know, an AI, a robot, that there'll be some artificial intelligence that can do what I do. Of course, I'm not going to like the idea of that. I'm like, you know, but you never know, actually. There might be some approaches which they'll try, even, you know, that people end up talking to some sort of bot or via a computer.
So some final advice for all the future consultants and trainers. Is there anything in particular that you think we haven't spoken about?
I don't know about haven't spoken about, but, you know, I would want to underline it. Look after yourself. You know, that would be it, because for your own sake, and there's no shame in it, you know, in order to kind of look after other people, you need to look after yourself, you know. And then I think in a nice little way, that gives you the integrity to be able to sort of work in the whole business of mental health and well-being, if you like. So yeah, I'll end on that one, shall I?
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Simona. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for attending today's career discovery session on training and consultancy in the addiction sector. And we thank Lucas Oliver for speaking of his job role in such an interesting and motivational manner. We'll see you next week for another career discovery session with a completely different professional.